Welcome back to episode 18 of the ENSPIRES podcast. I am your friend and host, Jess M. Cutler, and I am excited today. I am so excited. I'm trying to sit into my excitement, but I can't help it because I'm excited. I have with me today someone who is no stranger to the spotlight. This individual has graced the stage alongside legends like Darren Hardy, Bob Proctor, you can correct me if I'm wrong, captivating audiences of 10,000 or more with his genuine wisdom and unmatched presence. Just knowing the little bit about his story that I do, he has experienced the pinnacle of success, soaring to unimaginable heights. And I would call it a relatively short career because I think we're kind of around the same age. So I'm going to say it's relatively short because we're pretty young. But you've also endured the deepest valleys of despair that usually find a way to accompany such a remarkable journey. So I am excited to have him. He is someone that my husband really admires as a friend and a mentor. And Will has told me every time we've talked about this podcast that I have to have you on here. So I am so excited to have you on here. And he is here with me today in studio, if you're on YouTube and watching, Mr. Richard Bischoff.
Thank you. I am excited to be here, and that introduction sounds like someone way better than me.
I mean, we'll chat GPT. No, just kidding.
But no, thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Well, I'm excited to really get into it and get started. I was reading through your bio, and I have to point out, and this is like just random, but I have to point out, you actually started your bio with two facts that I find very interesting about you. Okay, are you ready?
Yes, I think I know what they
are. One, you grew up in Myrtle Beach, which is kind of unheard of in this area. Like, you don't find true Myrtle Beach natives. We just don't. Right. And then two, you're actually one of 6 children.
Yes.
And you were homeschooled.
Yes.
Is your mother okay?
She's amazing.
Okay.
Yeah, and she's still doing good. Now she's taking care of 13 grandkids. So, yeah, she's awesome.
Ooh. Yeah, she's like Superwoman. Maybe I should have her on here.
Yeah, no, I mean, all she would do is talk about Jesus and grandkids.
Okay, all right. Well, I'll take it. So, I mean, I'll be honest. I've been in Myrtle now for 18 years.
Yeah.
I chose to move here, but I actually never intended to stay. I'm actually very curious to know, like, what you love about our little shoreline city that kept you here.
Yeah, for sure. Well, first, I got to clarify, I wasn't born here.
Okay.
I grew up here. We moved here, and I was 3. So when I say I grew up here, I did grow up here. You did. But I don't want that to be, some of these locals who were born here, they would take offense with me.
But I mean, like, name me one.
That. Yeah, not many.
Yeah.
But yeah, so my parents moved here when I was 3 years old in 1986 to start a business, which is still running today, Healthy Home Carpet Cleaning. So they're here, 36-year-old business, but they saw an ad in the paper back in Jersey, where we're from, saying that this franchise was opening. There's a location in Greenville, South Carolina, and in Myrtle Beach, and they wanted to stay by the beach because that's where they were. My mom's from Ocean City, New Jersey, on the beach, so that's how they chose. They had never been to Myrtle Beach, but that's how they chose Myrtle Beach. And why do I love it? Why do I want to stay here?
Yeah.
Well, I think for the cost of living, to be on a coastal town next to the beaches, even though prices all over the country have gone up, we're still relatively affordable for what we have. And it's like we have an international airport, so it's a quick trip. If you want to go to Miami, you get a direct flight to Miami. Want to go to New York, direct flight to New York, depending on the year. You can go direct to almost anywhere. So I love it for being by the beach, cost of living, and it's one of the top tourist spots. So, I mean, people pay to come here. We get to live here. So
that's so true. So you grew up here. You went to college here. You went to Coastal Carolina University. And so, for you, how has it been? I feel like for me, I grew up in a really small town. And I don't think Myrtle Beach is a big city by any means. Like, would you call it a big city?
It's definitely not a big city.
I mean, it's bigger than a town.
But the reason why it feels bigger is because at any given time in the summer, we have 1 million visitors here. But, in the winter when everybody's gone and it's 50, 60, 70,000 people, it's bigger than a small town, but it's not massive.
Yeah. I think I realized that the very first year I lived here, I was like, oh, wow, this is such a big city compared to Olin, North Carolina, which is 2,200 people.
Oh, wow.
So, but when I came here, the first year I was like, oh my gosh, it's such a big city. And then winter hit and I was like, wait, I just saw her yesterday at the grocery store. And then I was like, oh my gosh, we all know each other here too? Oh. Yep. So, yeah. But anyway, I feel like whenever, especially if you grow up in a smaller town or a smaller city, you always kind of have to go, you have to leave, go somewhere and sort of find yourself. But you didn't have to do that.
No. I mean, we grew up traveling. So I grew up going on missions trips. So, you go to third world countries and you serve for a while and you come back and you realize how amazing it is anywhere in the United States, but especially here. And then I traveled a lot for soccer. So I got to see, the world, but, just something about Myrtle Beach, living by the beach, growing up surfing, skating, doing all the fun stuff that, weather-wise, California would have been a good choice.
I mean, I went to San Diego for the first time this year, and I was like,
yeah, it's amazing. But overall, yeah, very fortunate to grow up here.
So you graduated from college. So now I'm kind of curious now, because you have quite, I mean, like I said, relatively short career, but you really have, I mean, kind of one thing led to another. So tell me a little bit about, so coming out of college and now you're kind of getting into the real world, but like, what was that like for you, especially in a town where you grew up?
Well, I mean, for me, I started out at Coastal as a business finance major. And after about about 3 semesters in, so about a year and a half in, I realized that I wasn't excited about it. Like there was just nothing fun, nothing exciting. And my dad hired a personal trainer for him to lose weight.
Okay.
And he just invited me to come along with him. So I said, yeah, okay, I'll come. It's a free workout. And I was a skinny little 155-pound soccer player. And I remember sitting down and my dad wrote him a check for $700 for 10 sessions. And I was doing the math. I was like, that's like $70 an hour. That's pretty good. So we're working out with him. It was 2, 3 times, 4 times, 5th time. And then finally the guy, I was starting to see results. And the guy who saw that I enjoyed it and loved it, he goes, have you ever thought about switching your major and becoming a personal trainer? He goes, I need someone to take over my overflow of clients. So right then, switched majors, got licensed as a personal trainer because he told me he paid me $25 out of the $70 that he charged. So for me, $25 an hour, I was 19. I could do it part-time through college. So I actually became a personal trainer while I was in college. So when I got out of college, I already had a personal training business. I actually left the gym and was doing it privately at another small studio. So I was essentially self-employed. I was paying the studio $500 a month to train my clients there. So yeah, then they say, if you find something you love to do, you never feel like you work a day. That's how I felt with it. I mean, I absolutely loved it.
So wait, I just have to ask though, because like growing up, did you always feel like you were going to own a business? Like, did you have that entrepreneurial spirit?
No, even though my dad owned a business, I actually saw how hard he worked, and I almost wanted the exact opposite of that. Like, he worked so hard. I mean, he actually worked out of the backside of our house growing up, so he was always around. But I mean, he was up at 5:30, 6 o'clock every morning. And well, he's actually in the office then, so he was up before then. Sometimes he'd be not coming back in until at 7 o'clock right after dinner, building a business. And then the service business in Myrtle Beach, employee turnover is heavy, so he was always filling in because someone didn't show up. So I saw how hard he was working, and although I admired it, and it definitely built my work ethic, I didn't want to do manual labor. I mean, it's carpet cleaning, and I mean, and in the summer it's hot. So and I just fell in love with personal training. So, but maybe subconsciously, since I quickly got out of working at a gym for a gym, and so maybe subconsciously, I like the freedom aspect of not having a boss.
Yeah.
So possibly.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I just think it's funny.
I feel like you're a therapist. You're pulling it out of me. I had no idea. Maybe it is.
Well, I always wonder because, and between me and Will, like Will tells stories whenever, like Will's my husband. So he tells stories like when he was a little kid, he would like get a bubblegum pack and he would like sell a piece of it for $5, for a nickel. Yeah. And like.
That wasn't me.
That was not me either. So I wondered if maybe you had that
spirit. I hated sales because I hated being sold. You walk in the store, someone says, can I help you? Like, no, I'm fine. Yeah. Just looking. Like, for some reason, before I actually ended up in sales by accident, which I'm sure we'll get into, I just thought sales was less like, you are a horrible person if you're selling me something and annoying me. So honestly, from that standpoint, I was definitely not entrepreneurial, walking around the neighborhood, hey, can I sell this?
Right.
No, definitely not me.
Okay. All right. So you get into this business, you're doing the physical training, things are going great, you love it. So then what happened?
So I guess it was around 2008. I was training some clients at the gym, and a guy came in trying to sell us or tried to get us to join his pyramid scheme, as people like to call it.
Will calls it magic juice.
Yeah, he was trying to sell us on this health supplement, and it was a multi-level marketing, network marketing type thing. And I had no interest because I didn't want to sell anything. I think part of that had to do with fear of rejection. Like I've never liked the idea of someone telling me no. So if you don't put yourself in a situation, then you don't do that. So I said no. He came back a second time to talk to the owner, me and another trainer in the gym. And we said no. The third time he came back, I hid. Pretend like I had to go in the bathroom, like literally trying to avoid this guy. And then I came back out and he had left. And the owner of the gym said, hey man, he left us some product, let's just drink it. Like it's free. So it was a healthy energy drink. It was 2 ounces of a clinically studied liquid nutritional supplement poured into a can, added with 6 more ounces of carbonated water, and it was just a healthy energy drink. And I was drinking Red Bull or Rocks, all those ones. You wake up at 5 in the morning, you got to train a client at the gym at 6. You're trying to get some energy. So I was used to drinking 1 or 2 energy drinks a day, which I knew weren't healthy for you. And here I am as a personal trainer, So I was like, you know what, I'll try it. And I liked it. So I just started drinking it. That was it. And then my clients and friends saw me drinking it and they asked what it was. And I tell them, they said, where do I get it? So I went back to the guy who he left his card at the gym. So I sent him a message, say, hey, I got some people that want to buy your stuff.
And not my stuff, but your stuff.
I said, I got some people for your business. And he goes, well, that's not how it works. You can't get it, in stores, and I don't sell it directly. We just let people try it if they want to order it. Everybody, even the customer like you, gets a free website. So I just started giving out my website. Hey, here's the website. And I get a $20 check, and then a $40 check, and then a $50 check. And then before you knew it, I was making $2,000 a month from people just enjoying this product. And the turning point where it really took off was my pastor at the time was, I don't know if you ever seen, he was a strong man, but they would share the gospel. So they would like roll frying pans, rip phone books, do power lifting type moves, and then share the gospel. So there was called Power Team.
Wow. Okay.
And then another one called Team Impact. So they would draw in the crowd.
I think I have seen that.
Yeah, and so he's a fit, strong guy. But because of all the lifting, he had issues with his elbow, and he had to take cortisone shots, and he was always drinking Red Bull. And he'd go to the doctor, and the doctor said, man, your blood pressure's high. Get off these energy drinks. And then right around the time, he had seen my post about this healthy energy drink, so he tried it. He got on it. The pain in his elbow went away. The blood pressure went down, but he was still having the energy drink. So he told everybody. And not only did people trust him because he was a pastor, but people trusted him because he was the fitness guy. I mean, he's a strong, big guy. So then the business went to $4,000 a month. And then I had another buddy said, hey man, you're making more money than me.
And wait, how old were you about this time?
It took me probably about 6 months to get this. And I guess I started in 2008. Born in 83, 25. 25.
Mid-20s?
Yeah, 25, 26.
Okay.
And then it just took off from there, because then those people started sharing it with their friends, and then it just kind of snowballed, So I kept personal training because I loved it, but...
Let's just talk about like multi-level marketing for a minute, because that in and of itself, one, it speaks for the product, but it also, I mean... I can't tell you how many people I know that have done like Leah Sophia. Well, I don't know I did Leah Sophia for like a day, but then like Mary Kay or, like some of, and it's, and I haven't seen a lot of success stories.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's actually, while it is easy, or what is it was just as easy, but it's not simple, or it's simple, it's not easy.
It's simple and not easy.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so the fact that, that became, sort of like your path, it just, I mean, it really, like I said, it speaks to the product, but it also speaks to,
yeah, and I think it comes down to the simplicity of sharing it. The fact that I could just give one to somebody, it cost me $3 or whatever it cost. I just give it, hey, try this. You liked it? Cool. You want to order it? It's great. You don't like it? Hey, no harm, no foul. Like it was I didn't look at it as sales.
We had an entire refrigerator at them. I love them.
And so I just shared it. Like I didn't go out to people and say, hey, you need to join my team. You can make so much money. Like it was just sharing it, and then those people just shared it. Now, some people did do that,
Of course.
and I think that's where it starts getting the bad rap. Someone who hasn't even made any money with it is trying to get you to join so they can make money. I just kept it very product focused. I had 3 personal trainer certifications at that time. I had my nutrition certification. So I think for me, it was just like, it was something I believed in. I feel like if they spent money, they got a product that was beneficial. So I didn't sell them anything. So yeah, from that support, it was just a natural progression. So I think that determines someone's success. If it's a product they believe in and it feels natural for them to share it.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I mean, I think it's one of those things too, where you have to have the right motive.
Yeah.
And so like with you, your motive was like, I just want to help people. Like, I really love this. Like,
right.
Oh, I've heard you got these problems. Like, here, you're drinking all these energy drinks. Like, here, try this. This could be cool. Versus the others where their motives are like, I need to make all the money. And I've seen other people that can make all the money. So, like, you have to try this. So, I feel like when your motives align, like...
The motives and also your own personal reputation. I think people knew I wasn't a salesperson. They knew I wasn't trying to sell them on anything. And they knew I said no, because I told them my story. I was like, man, I said no to this 3 times. I said it wasn't until I tried it and drank it and became a customer not even like this. So I was like, why don't you start there? Just try it. Do you like it or not?
Yeah.
And you go from there.
Okay, so you're up to like 4,000 a month now.
Yep.
I'm gonna let you go back to your story. I'm sorry, I had to interject for a second.
Yeah, 4,000 a month. And then the economy, we know 2008-ish, the economy started to go from the real estate, which took a while. I think like it hit the real estate agents and loan officers and people in the industry right away. But I think it took another 6 months to a year to start affecting other industries and just the average person. So I think 2009 and 10 were still kind of, so by the time I got up to like 6,000 a month. And then it started to go backwards. Some people were canceling their orders because of whatever reason, finances.
I can't do math quickly. So like 6,000 a month. So you were pulling in what a year?
65 to 75,000.
Just sharing the good news.
Yeah, sharing
of what we'll call the magic juice.
which was more than I was making as a personal trainer.
Yeah,
because you only have so many hours in a day to train clients. So I was making about $45,000 a year as a personal trainer, then another 60, 70,000 from that. But then it started to kind of go back down because it's a business. And if you're not out there sharing it, or if the economy shifts and people aren't buying as much. So it started to go back down. And then the economy kind of flattened out, started to go back up from 2010. We've had a nice ride really for the last 13 years.
Right.
With the stock market and with everything. So then people were back interested in having some extra money spending. And then it had gotten down all the way back down to about 2,500. And then, and I always tell people, it wasn't costing me anything. This was money that was just coming. All I had to do was order the product. I had no overhead. I had no expenses. Because people all the time was like, well, it went backwards. I was like, I still had my full-time job. This was just extra money.
Right.
If it went to nothing, I was still just drinking a product that I liked. So the money wasn't even a thought when I first got into it. But within 24 months, it went from 2,500 to 25,000 because of different people I got on the team. And it started, and that's when I entered into the top 50 income earners of the company. And then at that point, they were inviting you to come speak on stage, fly you out, because Darren Hardy, who at that time was the editor of Success Magazine, and he was holding different things. So he flew me out and some guys out to Ohio to speak at a conference, flew down to Miami to speak at one of his conferences he put on, and then obviously I speak at our conventions every year in Vegas.
I do his Living Your Best Year Ever every year. This is like my third or fourth year actually doing his book every year.
He's one of my top 3 mentors that I have met. So I have mentors I haven't met, but he's one of my top 3 for sure that I have met in person. He's awesome.
Yeah.
He's actually the inspiration to the book that I'm writing. Because he's probably one of the most self-disciplined people I've ever met.
Well, wait, before we get there, because I want to hear all about that too. So you're flying out there, you're doing all these, with Darren Hardy.
Yep.
Living the dream.
Living the dream.
I feel like when I met you, I think this was about the time that you came into Mine and Will's life. It had to be
right around the peak. Well, it's because, Will's successful, you're successful, and it takes a higher level of success to attract successful people. So like when you become a leader, I always say there's 3 different levels of leadership. And the first level is not even being a leader. It's being a good follower so that you can become a leader. And then the next level is a leader, but you're really a leader of followers. And then the third level of leadership is when you become a leader of leaders. You start attracting like-minded people and people who see the vision. And I think that's when I got to like Will, and I could probably name 10 different people that I wouldn't have attracted into the business had I not grown in my leadership, growth phase. So it was around that time. And then August...
Because I do feel like you were driving like a Ferrari or something. It was some ridiculous car.
Wish.
Like, I'm not a car girl, so I don't know, but it was impressive.
It was the brand new 2014 Corvette.
Okay.
Which at that time, it felt like a Ferrari, but it was 70,000 instead of 470,000. But yeah, so I had a couple, I had some nice cars, and we'll talk about that later. My family is a big car family. But yeah, so on August 15th, 2015, I woke up to a bunch of text messages. Hey, we can't get into the website. And people were calling me. And then I started calling the guys above me, but they weren't answering the phone. And I was like, that's weird. They never don't answer their phone. And then about an hour later, I get a call from the top guy, the guy that's making the most in the company, about $4 million a year. And he was like, yeah, the FTC came in. and for marketing practices, not because of product's phenomenal. That happened 8 years ago. I still drink the product every single day.
Right.
So
Still love it.
the product is amazing, but the marketing practices, which a lot of, it's hard because everybody is a 1099 like everybody's an independent person.
Right.
And the company sets their guidelines, but they can't control how each individual markets it until someone says something they find out about, and then they could terminate them or do something. Well, this was at the height of it, and I had college students on my team. I had this one college student, Ian Lenhart. He was
not to name any names.
He was no. I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. I'm telling you, he was a success story, but brought in a lot of college students and ended up not being. But in 13 months, he went from nothing to a 6-figure income at 19 in college, making more than his professors. So then we had probably about 30 similar stories like that in a 18-month period. So then all these other people were going around, quit college, do this, you can make more money. Like, just stuff that you shouldn't be saying. Whether you agree with college or not, you don't go around, because then guess what happens? Those parents who are paying $20,000 a semester for their college thing, they're mad. These kids were taking their parents' credit cards, spending money on the products. So it was bound to happen because we had so many young people doing it. The older people weren't going around saying that they were maybe making health claims. Some 65-year-old guy got rid of his gout and was telling all his friends it was a miracle cure, but it was the financial claims that the FTC didn't like. Okay. And so they went to court. The problem is it pretty much destroyed it. You Googled it, FTC lawsuit, blah, blah, blah. They couldn't pay out. I mean, it was literally shut down. So my income was shut down in one day, no income whatsoever. And you got to think, I mean, at this time, 2015, 8 years ago, 32, I have 3 kids, married, and expenses, even though I was making good money, like, you don't save it all. I mean, we're Americans. so I had a house payment that we were actually 10 days out from closing on this house when this happened. But we were renting it and we were going to buy it. Had the Escalade payment, the Corvette payment, had some credit card debt just for, I racked up for points for traveling and stuff like that. And you have a little bit of money in savings, but you got $8,000 in expenses each month between the kids and daycare and different stuff. And it's like, wow, like, we're going to go through this savings like really fast. And it's not one of those industries where you can just go to the next company because you got to make sure you're promoting a product. Like, you can't just say, oh, this product's great, but we got to switch to this product now. Like, it's not one of those industries that you can just hop and just make money and feel really authentic about it.
And you were full time. I mean, it wasn't like, you no more.
Yeah, I had retired from personal training full time. So it was scary. It was the first time in my life that I felt such high levels of anxiety and depression. It was the first time in my life that I went to a therapist because to get something to help me sleep, and I was prescribed Xanax, took it 3 days, and then I just stopped because I don't like being suppressed. Like, I can't, like, I had to figure out how to fix the situation. Yeah. It didn't. So I needed to just handle the stress and function at a higher level. So I got rid of them and haven't taken anything like that since. But it was scary. I mean, that was my identity too. Like, I was the guy, with the nice car and the nice house, and you travel and speak on stage, and everybody who doesn't like your success, every little hater was posting stuff all over social media and like, haha, like, I knew that wouldn't last. I knew that was a pyramid scheme, and it had nothing to do with being a pyramid scheme. It had nothing to do with being a bad product. It had everything to do with just the marketing practices, which, everybody shouldn't have been doing, but you can't control 200,000 different college students on how they're going to say stuff. So it was somewhat inevitable, but yeah, so it was scary. That was a low point.
Well, it was like the COVID before COVID. The only difference was that in COVID, we were all in the same boat. Right. And in that, it was literally you were by yourself. Right. So then all those haters coming in to be like, yeah, we told you. I mean,
for sure.
That's intense.
And on top of that, it happened at a very stressful time in my marriage. So
did it cause the stress in marriage, or it just happened at the same time?
Well, it was 1 year later than what started the stress in the marriage. I won't go too much into that, but in 2014, we had our third child, my daughter, and that was the first time she had to have a C-section. So the doctor prescribed her pain pills and sleeping pills. And then about 2 months later, she had a hysterectomy, got more pain pills and more sleeping pills. And looking back, hindsight, but looking back, I remember one time she looked at me, she goes, I have the best OBGYN. She prescribed, all I have to do is text her and she gets me what I want. And like that just went over my head that we were
Right.
busy with
You're
life.
like, oh, what a nice lady.
Yeah.
So convenient.
But I noticed over the course of that year as it got worse and worse, because I wasn't even thinking about the pills because he's a doctor prescribing me pills. That's what's supposed to happen.
Right.
But she would start passing out after one drink. I was like, man, is she sneaking alcohol? Like, no way one drink passed her. And then she started falling asleep sooner and sooner. And it got to the point where she was trying to get her kids, who were super young at the time, to go to bed at like 5. And I was like, why are you trying to put them to bed at 5? Just so that she could, escape, so to speak. So that was hitting a head around the same time this happened. Ooh. So when this happened and I was trying my best to make money any way I could, she looked at me one day and she's like, you don't even pay all of our bills. What good are you? So like that was, as a man, who was already in a situation where I was trying to figure out what am I going to do, to have your partner say that, like it was a very low time in my life. It was the end of 2015, beginning of 2016, where I just felt like I went from the top of the world to not the top of the world.
Right. the very bottom of it and back.
Yep. And I remember watching an Eric Thomas video, and he said something to the extent of a setback is just a setup for a comeback. And that like really, like sometimes you hear stuff and it really resonates with you. Yeah. And because at this time I was thinking, okay, did I just get lucky with this network marketing thing? How do I know I can build it again or in a different industry? What happens if we get a divorce? And then, typically the moms get sole custody of kids, and now I'm going to be paying child support and not even getting to see my kids every day. And it's just like all these thoughts of like doubts and insecurities. And it was a low point that I heard that. And I was like, you know what? The things I learned, all the stuff I would preach on stage, at these conventions. Right. And I was like, if I really believe that, and these are things I learned, I can apply that to anything I do. So
luckily you really already had like a background in personal development and growth. So you had that in your pocket at least.
Yeah. That's honestly was my favorite thing about the network marketing industry is it's literally a training ground for personal development, for sales. The conventions I went to, the speakers I got to listen to and meet, it was there. Sometimes you forget it when you're in a depressed state. Right. And I started thinking, it's like, okay, all I have to do is apply all the stuff I would speak about to all these people. And so what happened, like I said, I was 10 days out from closing on a house. So I had to call the branch manager of that mortgage company and say, hey, I can't close on this house. I have no income right now. I don't know what I'm going to do. And he said, well, you're in sales. Why don't you come be a loan officer? And I was like, oh man, that's that finance thing that I switched to in college. I was like, I don't know if I can. And he said mortgage, I think in banking. I was like, man, it seems so serious. I've had so much freedom. Yeah. So to go into that, I was like, oh, man, I really appreciate it, but I just don't know. So I got my real estate license super quick, sold 3 houses in my first 90 days, got back into personal training, was working for my dad part-time. So, I was making about $8,000 to $10,000 a month, but 3 different ways. And I was just, it was killing me. And then I remember the loan officer, the branch manager, would continue to follow up with me. And he said, just come in. And so I came and I sat down, and he was making a good bit of money, and more than I had ever made. And I was like, okay, do you think I can get back to a 6-figure income? He goes, yeah, and some. And I was like, okay, well, if you believe I can do it, then you're my new mentor. Right. Because I believe in coaches. You. I believe in coaches and mentors. He was the #1 loan officer in Myrtle Beach at the time. And I said, okay, if I'm going to listen to somebody, this would be the guy to listen to. So I became his assistant. Okay. At this time, I was going through our divorce. We were separated. Okay. She went off to a treatment center in Tennessee for 4 weeks, came back, relapsed after 4 days, and it just got worse. It's almost like she just gave up. She's like, hey, I tried. And so we were in the middle of our divorce and fighting for sole custody of the kids. And I was like, okay, I need something stable, 9 to 5. So I took that opportunity. $10 an hour was my starting pay. And I ended up having to file bankruptcy because my ex-wife was authorized user on my credit cards, ran them up to $40,000, still had both our vehicles, still had all this debt. And I was making I was like, I can't handle that. To this day, I kind of wish I would have went back and kind of figured out a way to not go through it.
That's what I was going to ask. I was looking back.
Yeah, it took off the stress temporarily. Yeah. But if I would have known how fast I would have gotten back, I probably would have figured out a way. But at the time, I didn't know. So, but I did go through the bankruptcy, and that was that got discharged in 2017. And I was his assistant for a year, got a raise to $16 an hour once I passed my mortgage license test after a month. But I was living with my mom and dad at 33 years old, making $36,000 a year, going through a divorce, fighting for custody of my 3 kids. And I was just like, wow, like, how did this happen to me? But on the flip side, because my parents are so awesome and the friends I had were awesome and the group that I had in my life, I always talk about law of association. It's such a power thing because who you're associated with, like the belief that they instilled into me. And so after 1 year, I told him, I said, listen, I can't be your assistant anymore. I got to be a loan officer. And my second month as a loan officer made $15,000 and just went up from there. So from a business standpoint or that sales standpoint, it just kind of took off from there.
Well, what a great time too to kind of get into that market. Was that right before?
That was 2018. So it gave 2017. I became his assistant in July of 2016. Became a loan officer on my own in 2017. And then, from a business side, the finances, I was feeling free again.
Yeah.
I had no debt because of the bankruptcy. I was making 6 figures again. So that was one level of stress off. I ended up finalizing the divorce that a few months later, and I got sole custody of the kids. So that was another layer of stress that I get to see them every day. Now I don't have to pay her for me to not have my kids every day. So like that was a massive level of stress taken off. So I felt like right around the end of 2017, I was like, okay, it's time to build again. Like, I went through the survival mode, went through the awfulness of end of 2015, but mostly all of 2016. And in 2017, it was like, okay, let's start planning for the future again. So that was an exciting time for me, but it felt like forever.
I was going to say, in your lowest point, and this is before you started to build, like from whenever you felt like you really hit bottom, how long did it take for you to go, okay, I do have to set myself up for this comeback? Like, how long did you have to sit in that space?
It was, I would say 9 months of like real bad suck.
Yeah.
Because that's how long it took us from the day we filed for divorce to the day I got sole custody of the kids. So that was just big. My daughter was 2, my boys were 4 and 5, and like not seeing them was just like not an option.
Well, considering you'd already lost your identity, and now, I mean, being a father is another part of that identity, and that may have been the part that you were really holding to not be able to see them as just another layer on the cake there.
So yeah, I mean, it was about 9 months of like the lowest point. But I mean, I remember it got so bad that I told my mom, because she's like, you just got to keep praying. I told her, I was like, no. I said, I'm done. I'm not praying anymore because God loves these kids more than I do. So if he sees fit that she gets custody or we split them, then he knows he'll keep them safe. He loves them more than I do. And by me continuing to pray all the time, I feel like I'm telling him, I don't trust you enough. Like it was because I prayed so much. And I'm not saying like, don't pray, but I feel like I had prayed so much that it was almost like, okay, I'm just repeating the same prayers as if I didn't believe he heard the prayers the day before.
Right.
So I just I was like, you know what, God, like, you know how much I love these kids, but mostly I just want to keep them safe. And I was like, so you know what's best. You love them more than I do. So I literally stopped. 2 weeks later, her mom calls me and said, I can't do this anymore. I'm going to write an affidavit for you to get the custody. My ex's mom, the babysitter who was paid by my ex, said she'll write an affidavit for me. So I had like 3 or 4 different people on her side writing that. Like, I couldn't have forced that. I couldn't have called them and said, hey, write this affidavit.
Right.
But I feel like God moved in that situation. I mean, because it was an awful custody battle in the sense that we had 3 different judges over those 9 months, and each one was new to the case.
Right.
It's like they didn't even care. It was mind-boggling to me, like how not like serious I felt like the court was taking a situation. But regardless, it was a long time. But when it happened, I felt like, okay, it's time to rebuild. Let's see how. Like I started having belief again. Like, hey, not only can I make the money back, but what else can I build? Like, because I like. Going through all the growth and the personal development, I like to grow something. I like to build something. And so that was the next thing. So as soon as I was a licensed mortgage loan officer for 3 years, I could become a branch manager. Okay. And so I knew I wanted to start my own thing. I wanted to build my own team. And partnered up with a guy here in Myrtle Beach, brought in a mortgage company that was based out of Ohio, and launched that in 2019 and built that to probably the fastest growing mortgage company in Myrtle Beach. It also helped. COVID was a good catalyst. You know,
Right.
we got really busy after they, locked us down for a short period of time.
Right.
But yeah, so it allowed me to apply all the stuff that I learned in the past.
So, and I know you said, that statement, that was really kind of like the moment that really kind of pulled you out of it. I only want to ask this question because I know a lot of people have been in that place. So once you decided, okay, it's time, what did you do? Like, how were you able then to get up off the couch and go, like, what was that next step for you?
Yeah, I mean, I was watching a lot of personal development videos and motivational videos on YouTube, because everything's about, the Bible talks about renewing your mind. And so for the last 9 months in my mind, I was just fear, anxiety, stress, all this negative stuff, and conversations with ex, and it was just like negativity. And it's like, then I was like, I need to renew my mind. I need to put stuff in my mind, like faith and belief and just growth. And so a lot of the stuff I watched, I just said, you know what? If these people can do it, I can do it. I'm not a one-hit wonder, so I used to be, or at least I didn't want to be.
Right.
And so I just started to apply it. And then one of the things I heard, I can't remember who it was, but it says, how you do one thing is how you do everything. And I'd let my body go because of the stress. I wasn't working out, I wasn't eating right. So I was like, I got to get back in shape, because the more in shape you are, the more confidence you have. The more confidence you have, the more willing you are to go out there and put yourself on the line and take risks. So I was like, I got to get back in shape. I was already still going to church, but I was like, I need to make the faith aspect a daily conversation with my Creator, not just a Sunday, hey, I checked it off the list.
Right.
So I started prioritizing that. And then the money, like I said, started to I became a loan officer. I was like, I got to get out there. I got to hustle. I got to get rid of my fear of rejection or fear of failure. So I was like, how I do everything. So whether it was finances or fitness or faith or relationships, I actually, at that time, I had just started, I don't want to say dating, but I guess you could say dating, more hanging out. Because when you're going with the kids' custody battle, stuff like that, you're kind of just, like, hey, I got a lot going on. We can go grab dinner, we can do this, but it's more casual. But once my life kind of settled and I got the custody of kids and I started growing, then we started more seriously dating, and it's an awesome woman who is my fiance now. Yeah, so she kind of was with this,
through the whole
thing. She met me when I was making $16 an hour. Like, she didn't meet the old Richard. She met me in my worst. What I've now built, I built with her, which makes it that much more special.
Yeah. When I hear your story, and I want you to know, I've had chill bumps. Like, I don't know if anyone else who listens to this will feel the same thing, but there are quite a few moments in there where it's like, I would just get chill bumps. And I wanted to point it out, but I also didn't want to interrupt you. But I just like 4 times and throughout it. And just when I'm talking to my business coach, whenever I get chill bumps and stuff, she always go, Holy Spirit, activate. So when I just want every time I get chill bumps, hilarious. I always listen a little closer because I always feel like it's like, this is something that like God is speaking through you to me. So I just want you to know that as I listen to your story, quite a few times. Look, they're right here. Look, coming right up. Mm-hmm. See?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. My little goosebumps. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, and
wow. I was like, I had a question, and I was like, I just need to sit in that for a moment.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I think for me, another big thing was making sure I built a life that the kids would have as normal of a life as possible. Going through a divorce, I didn't go through that. My parents are still together to this day after 41 years. I mean, they're the best parents and the best model of relationship I could have asked for. And here I was, I kind of felt like a failure in a sense, going through a divorce. But I said, there's nothing I can do about that. I got to make it as stable and as good for the kids as possible. I mean, so they were a big motivating factor.
Yeah. Well, I remember.
Yeah.
I remember what it was now. When I listen to your story, it reminds me a lot of the story of Joseph. And it's like the words that come to mind are like how God perfectly positioned him. And it was like, it's like then when he ended up in prison, it was like, then he became the assistant to the head of the prison. It just like, and then something else would happen. And then it would just like, he would kind of keep going. So it's one of those where it's like, I feel like we're just at the very beginning of your story, like the very beginning of your life.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, it's scary to think that there could be more.
You're like, please don't let me
I will, Jerry. Let's just cruise from here. But and I appreciate that. But Joseph, of all the ones in the Bible, was kind of the most perfect. I definitely had my failures. I was more like a David. I made my mistakes, but so I definitely don't want it to come across as like I was perfect. X was the worst person ever, and like I've made my financial mistakes. I should have saved money when I was making multiple six figures. I didn't have enough saved, but I do appreciate. But
perfectly positioned,
perfectly
like whether
positioned.
you knew it was perfectly positioned or not, God was like, you know what, he has to go through here because he has to call and cancel on 10 days before he's going to close on the house so that he could say, hey, you should come. Like just. And I think that's the thing is that you don't know.
Yeah, you don't know when
you don't even know. Yeah, when you're going through it, it's when you look back on it that you're like, oh wow, like I could have never predicted that was going to be what came out of it. Like, you don't know. Maybe the reason why you needed to have your children is because maybe your children are going to be someone. I mean, they are not. Maybe they will be. They're going to be someone great and incredible and wonderful. And like, you had to go through a hard time in your life, but now here they are, and now you get to steward them up.
And we get a special relationship. I mean, I think any parent-child relationship is special, but when you're a single parent, and like we haven't seen the ex since June 2nd, 2018.
Oh, wow.
So it's been over 5 years since we've even seen her, and she lives in town. So like when I say it was me and the kids, it was me and the kids until the fiance, at that time a girlfriend, came into our lives. So we got to build a really special bond. So like that is probably what I'm most thankful for. So
I love how I'm a detail person. It's like, the date, like the month, the day, the year.
Oh yeah.
I'm just like, it wasn't,
I got my memory skills from Calvary Christian.
Oh,
so, when we had to memorize all the books of the Bible.
Right.
I always said that's where I got my good memorization from, is because they made us memorize everything.
What's your favorite Bible verse then?
Oh,
I'm going to put you on fire.
No, I mean, honestly, it's just so hard, but I think it's Philippians something. I have it in my book. I don't want to say the wrong verse, but it just says it's my determined purpose to get to know you more and more intimately. And it's talking about getting to know God. Just like I want to know God, my creator, as well as I can know him. That's my purpose. Like the more I feel like I know him, the more I'll feel like I know my purpose because he's created me. Everything that's created has a purpose. This chair was created for a purpose. This table was created for a purpose. Everything that's ever been created is created for a purpose. And I believe in God. I don't believe in evolution. But I believe we were created. And if we were created, I believe we should talk to the creator to find out why he created. What is our purpose? Now, I think as humans, we all have a generic purpose, to be a good human, to be a good spouse, to be a good parent, to be active in your community and give back. So we all have an overlying purpose, but we all also have our own individual gifts and talents and purpose that he has. And I feel like most people never find out what their purpose is because they literally just go through life. They work and they watch Netflix. They go to a bar, they party. So, I mean, if you don't get in touch with your creator to find out why you were created, what purpose, then it's hard. So, like, to me, that's my favorite Bible verse because I feel like it's just so basic. It's my determined purpose to get to know you more intimately and know you better. Like, that's what I want to do.
I mentioned Jordan Raynor before, and his book is called To Create. And I grew up in church. My dad was Southern Baptist minister. Like, I grew up with that same mentality. But it wasn't until I read his book that it pointed out, like, before we learn anything about God, what is the first thing it says? In the beginning, God created.
Yep.
So we find out before we know how loving and majestic he is, we learn that he's a creator. And I think about it, and the book really goes into it. And
then the first thing he said about us is that we're made in his image. So if the first thing it says about him, he's a creator, and we're in his image, we're creators. And a lot of times we create some really bad stuff.
But and I think it's one of those things where it's like when he created the world, it's one of those where, he didn't create roads. He didn't create the chair. So he invited us to co-create with him.
For sure.
So I love that. And I love that you said, you should read that book. It's so good if you've never read it.
No, I do. I do need to read it. I like that.
So I just kind of have to ask, it's kind of like a sum of all the things, because I mean, you've gone through high, you've gone through low, and you've gone through it in multiple ways in different directions. What do you feel like is like the greatest lesson that you've taken from it?
Oh man, there were so many lessons. It was so many.
You can say a couple if you need to.
I'll say a couple. I would say one of the first lessons is not finding my identity in what I do. So like this has happened to me a couple of times. So when I was a personal trainer, right before we had our first kid, and I was starting to make a little bit of money with Vima, but my identity still wasn't the successful Vima guy. My identity was still more, I was a personal trainer. I even did like a natural bodybuilding show when I was 19. And my body was my identity.
Right.
And then I tore my chest in the bench press competition. And now I'm uneven. I'm not, my whole life up until 29 was, I got to be symmetrical. My calves have to be as big as my arms and this, and everything's got to look symmetrical. I mean, I didn't drink alcohol because it was empty calories. I mean, I was in it. It was my life. And so like I tore my chest. That messed me up a little bit mentally because I couldn't work out. And even when I could start working out again, like it's detached. It's not the same. So it doesn't look symmetrical. And that was an identity thing for me.
Yeah.
And then when I made success or had success in that network marketing company and it shut down, that was an identity, that got crushed. When my marriage got, went down, and I was my identity of being a husband, and now I'm not a husband anymore. So not getting attached to any specific identity outside of what I was created as God's child, and I was created in the image of God, and my identity is in Him. Because that once I came back to that, it helped me get through those quote unquote identity crisis. So that was a big one.
So good.
Another lesson I learned was to be more financially responsible when things are good. The Jim Rohn talks about that, the different seasons in life. There's always going to be a winter. Winter is coming. The old game.
Winter is coming. Yeah.
So it's going to happen. You never think it's going to happen to you. It's going to happen. This happened to me several times, and if you're not wise with your money, that is so much extra stress that you bring, is self-brought on. So yeah, I would say those are two of the biggest lessons is just dealing with your identity and then dealing with different stresses that are self-brought on.
Yeah. So, and you mentioned it a little bit earlier, and you seem like, really to be able to rebuild in the ways that you have to have some type of discipline.
Yeah.
But you are writing your first book.
I am.
And it is called
The Self-Disciplined Man.
So tell me a little bit about that. What kind of brought you there?
Yeah, I think what brought me there is I see so many men struggling, and not to say that I've achieved any pinnacle of success. So this isn't, I'm not writing the book to be like, I made it, do what I do.
Right.
It's more or less, I've been around the right people. I've been in the right rooms. I've had moderate success, depending on who you're talking to. There's always two ends of the spectrum. And I've seen what applying self-discipline has done to my life to achieve certain things of success. But I see that most people who aren't successful in certain areas of their life is because of a lack of self-discipline. I saw it when I was a personal trainer. I saw it in sales and business. I see it in faith. I see it in people's, like with the religious walk. I see it with relationships. They're not self-disciplined in relationships. And then people are like, well, how do you apply self-discipline to a relationship? Or and I talk about those things in the book because most people just don't even think about some of the basic ways that you can apply self-discipline. Because self-discipline is just doing what you don't really want to do, but that if you do it, you're going to have a benefit on the other side. It's very simple. It's going to the gym when you don't feel like waking up at 6 a.m. It's eating the healthy salad instead of eating the cheeseburger. It's saving money instead of buying that next watch or the next car or this or that. When it comes to a relationship, is being self-disciplined enough not to cheat on your spouse or entertain conversations that could lead to cheating on your spouse. And like I said, I'm not saying I've been perfect in any of these areas, but sometimes you learn the most when you've made the mistakes or if you've been around such great people that help you see. And I've been surrounded by some of the best men that I've asked to be surrounded by. And I'm a big believer in coaches and mentors. And I feel like most people should have a coach or mentor in every aspect of their life and their faith life. They should have a spiritual mentor, someone that's been closer or longer around, an elder or something like that. A pastor. I feel like people should have a fitness coach of some sort. I feel like people should have like if you're in sales and business, you should have someone showing you. It just helps you get to where you want to go faster. Yeah. Like that's all it does. It saves you time, effort, and energy. So
wait, but can I just highlight that right there? Because I actually Will and I had this conversation the other day because I have a business coach. I have a Kajabi coach that's helping me with my courses. I have a podcast coach who's kind of helping me through the podcast. So, and I looked at Will and I was like, oh my God, oh no, and I have a physical trainer coach. Like, I just feel like I have all these coaches. I'm like, Will, oh my gosh, like, can I please get one more coach? I mean, seriously, like, I'm being ridiculous. Right. And Will was like, but when you played volleyball, you had a coach, right? And I was like, well, yeah, I had a coach. And he's like, okay, well, was she also your coach in basketball? And I was like, well, no, she wasn't. Right. And he was like, okay, well, that's a totally different sport. It's a totally different field. Like, you have to have different coaches in those different areas because you need those mentors that are specialized in that area to be able to take you where you need to go.
Absolutely. So, and I feel like there's different levels. So like, I feel like, for example, I could be a fitness coach, a sales coach, a relationship coach, and a faith coach to a certain level. You know, it's almost like when I was playing piano, I could be a piano teacher to the 3 levels below me, right, but not to anybody above me. So, and like we talk about leadership, being a leader of followers and a leader of leaders. So I really think it depends on the level that you're at and who you're coaching. Like, if you're coaching people, the fundamentals and the basics. But once you want to get to play at the bigger levels, you definitely need specialized coaches. Like, I'm never going to be able to take someone from nothing to an 8-figure business because I haven't done that. But I can help someone who's making $40,000 a year as a Costco employee and they want to make $250,000 a year in sales. I can say, hey, I can show you how to do that in the next 12 months. Let's roll. You know, so it's just one of those things. Like, I'm not going to help someone become an IFBB pro bodybuilder, but I can help someone lose 100 pounds that wants to lose weight. So, but the IFBB pro bodybuilder is going to have fitness coach that is in the industry and they're all in. So yeah, but I believe that everybody should have a coach that's gonna, or a mentor that, because if you can't afford a coach right away, normally there's always a way to come up with the money. But at least when I say mentor, there's someone that you might not even know. Like, obviously, if you have a coach, you know who your coach is. Right. But a mentor, because like, I've never met Jim Rohn. He's passed away now, the late great Jim Rohn. But he has met, like, he's probably been my number one greatest mentor outside of my parents, just because I just love his information. I love his stuff. And I would listen to it over and over. I probably listened to one of his audios over 500 times. It's an hour long, and I would listen to it in the car every time I would travel, doing stuff like with Vima and different stuff. So yeah, you don't have, there's so much free information these days on YouTube and podcasts and stuff like this. However, I really feel like you need, once you really want to build something, you need someone that you're paying and they have a vested interest in your success. They know you, they know your business, they know your industry, and they could take you from where you are to where you want to be.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. Yeah.
But back to the book real quick, because you were talking about the book. Why am I writing and so that? So, but a long way around. Back to the book. I'm writing that because that is that base. I just want to wake men up. I'm tired of seeing someone make $250,000 a year, but be paycheck to paycheck. I'm tired of seeing someone who maybe is successful with business, but they have a body that's, they could die in 10 years. My best friend died during COVID because he was 150 pounds overweight. This kid did the natural bodybuilding show with me when we were 19. We were 165 pounds, 4% body fat, ripped up on stage. And you fast forward from 19 to him being 38 at the time, and he was 343 pounds. And he passed away from COVID because his lungs and he just was not in shape. But that breaks my heart, because had he just been self-disciplined enough to stay in shape, there is a greater chance that wouldn't have happened. And then also, using him as an example, he had no savings. He had no life insurance. He was not set up to protect his family. As men, we're designed to provide and protect, and he didn't do that. And I don't say that to bash on him. I say that to say that's 90% of men out there. If they were to die today, their families are not set up, financially protected or provided for. So, and then you see different studies on faith and religion and how, just that gives you direction and that gives you a sense of base, and people who are committed to going to church on a regular basis and who really believe their faith are happier. The studies show they are happier. Their marriages are happier. And so it's just, I just want people to be the best versions of themselves. And I really believe it takes self-discipline to do that, because it's not natural to save money. It's not natural to go to the gym and diet. It's so much easier to not do these things. But by applying self-discipline to those areas of your life, I feel like people can just have an amazing amazing life. So that's why it's called the self-disciplined band. And if they apply it, then they'll get it.
And you've got practical tips all throughout it. And it's so what if you could just give one for let's go the fitness realm.
Yeah.
I'm sure that there may, or if there's one that applies to all of them, but let's just be specific. And if someone came to you and it's like fitness was kind of there, like, and you say like this is, about self-discipline, where do you start with that? Like what's the first step? What's the first step? I feel like I'm making you take lots of first steps.
There's one I'll talk about that applies to all of them. But first, for the fitness thing, I would just say creating a morning routine. I would say that too many people that wait till the afternoon find an excuse to skip it. It's what I used to do.
Yeah.
And so I say wake up 1 hour earlier and just do it. Like, so having a morning routine. So my morning routine is I'm up at 6 a.m. I will go downstairs. I read my Bible because the first thing I do in the day is connect with my Creator. The second thing I do in the day is connect with my kids because they're coming downstairs. So they're waking up, getting ready for school. And then I drive them to school and then I go to the gym. So I get my faith, family, and fitness out before 8:30 in the morning. So now the rest of my day is just like whatever comes at me, I got.
Yeah.
Like the three most important things I feel like I knock out in the first 3 hours of my day. So having a good morning routine, I think is big. But the thing that I would say applies to all of them and is honestly probably my biggest life hack on why I feel like I've achieved success maybe easier because I probably only work about 20 hours a week, 20 hours a week, but I do everything very efficient. But I will say that one of the biggest life hacks I tell people about is just the law of association. You want to get in shape, hang around people who are in shape. You want to make more money, hang around people who are making, there's nothing worse than being the guy that makes $40,000 a year and all your other friends are making $250,000, $500,000, $1 million. You're going to learn fast on how you can make some more money.
Yeah.
There's nothing worse than being the guy that's 100 pounds overweight and all your friends have abs. Like it's a wake-up call. You don't want to be that guy. You don't want to be around the people who are in a relationship and their spouses are talking great about their husbands and your wife hates you because you don't treat her right or whatever the case is.
Right.
So the law of association, if you would just surround yourself around people who have what you want, put yourself in a different environment, you'll achieve success so much faster. Also because of the networking and the relationships.
Yeah.
And so like that to me is like the first thing I would do if I was someone who wanted to change a certain aspect of my life, I would just change the people I associate with.
Which sounds easy, but it can be very difficult.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, for example, let's say you want to get in shape, join the gym. There's people at the gym who are going to be in shape and you're going to be around them. I see it every day and I'm like, man, that dude's ripped. I need to stick to my diet a little better.
Oh, I think I go to the gym just to watch some of these ladies like work out in their outfits because I'm like, oh my gosh, if I'm just in here with them every day doing the same thing, like I'm just like one machine behind.
Yeah. And then if it's the finances, like that's the way I would say is probably the harder one. Because like, okay, if you're making $40,000 a year, $50,000 a year, and this is not to knock anybody for not making a bunch of money.
Right.
But at the same time, I feel like we've been taught to kind of just settle, get a good job, work for 40 hours. And most people are stressed out because they don't make enough money. Most people are stressed. The number one cause of divorce is finances. So if you can get your finances in order, your relationship's typically going to be a little bit better. So, I mean, when it comes to the money aspect, I would tell people not to be scared of taking chances and trying a new career. You could get your real estate license, mortgage license, or life insurance license, which I've had all three, and I passed first time every time. It's not that difficult. I was homeschooled and not the best test taker, but I passed all three of those the first time, and I've had all three. And in each of those, I know people who make 6 figures and 7 figures. And I made 6 figures my first year in the mortgage business. So I know people who have done that in life insurance, and I know people who've done that none of them need a college degree. You can get all three of those within the next 30 days. Well, I wouldn't get all three. I was going to pick which one you want to do. But yeah, so let's say someone came to me and said, man, I really got to make more money. I'm making $16 an hour, $36,000 a year. I need to make more money. I say, cool. I said, pick which sales industry you want to get in, and let's get you licensed in the next 30 days. And then let's start part-time. You could do life insurance part-time. You could do real estate part-time. Mortgage business is a little bit harder to do part-time. And I would say in the next 12 months, let's build that up so you can quit your job and you make 6 figures. But they're just not willing to do it. But if they can be self-disciplined enough to do it, they could change their lives.
Well, and it's funny because I have to be honest, I actually interviewed my husband because he loves Richard. And I was like, well, why do you think he's inspiring? What do you admire about him? And he was like, the thing about him is like, most people choose safety and security.
Right.
And he said, Richard doesn't do that. Like, he moves to where he needs to go to be able to get what he needs to get done. And that's something that he admires about you, is that your ability to let go of what most people think, that 9 to 5, like they think that job is security.
Yeah.
And it's not. I mean, COVID, hello. Like,
and unless it's a really super high paying job and you save all your money, then it's there. Not only is it not security, it locks you in paycheck to paycheck for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
So whereas you just take, and I just like the freedom of being 1099 or like self-employed. Like, I like the freedom of being able to go out to lunch anytime I want to. I like the freedom of being able to do a podcast. I like the freedom of being able to travel. I can work from anywhere doing what I do. You know, we're going to Ireland in October. So, I mean, you're talking about, you know, being able to work from there, you know, and do whatever we want to do. So, I don't know. I believe there's this whole world out there that most people don't even just think about. And Bob Proctor talks about it. He talks about getting on the same frequency. And I didn't understand it the first 8 times I heard Bob Proctor. I've met him like 8 or 9 times. And it wasn't until the last time that I heard him say it and just kind of clicked with me. I was like, what does he mean frequency? That sounds like new age weirdos.
Woo woo.
And then he explained it to me, or it came in my head. I honestly can't remember it. I was like, well, if you think about it, on the radio station, you're listening to Mix 97.7 or whatever station it is. But at the same time you're listening to that, there's 20, 30, 40 different stations going on that other people are listening to. We're just not tuned into that frequency. So when he talked about tuning into a frequency, there's different frequencies all around us. There's people maybe right down the hall having a different conversation. And so sometimes you have to just change your frequency. And that's also about changing your association. The people you're talking about, they have different conversations. You know, that it's just one of those things that there's so much else out there. And until you take a risk or take an opportunity or change your environment, you're just going to be on the same frequency. And most of the time, that frequency for most people sucks. Yeah. I mean, it really does.
Yeah, it's like that radio station that like kind of comes in and kind of doesn't. Maybe some other station.
Yeah, most people aren't happy. And I want to see people happy. I want to see them thriving. And I want to see men be men again. You know, that's another reason why I'm writing the book. You know, I think that women have had to step up in a way because a lot of men have stopped being like men. And so like I want men, and then in return, this calls men to be even more insecure. It's like, okay, if my job as a male is to protect and provide, but we're not in caveman days where somebody's going to steal you or an animal's going to attack you. So you can go get a gun, you can go get a concealed weapon permit. You know, you don't need me for protection as much as women back in the day did. And now that women can work and make money, you don't need me as much to provide for you. So I think a lot of men are having that identity or crisis. It was like, hey, almost like what my ex said to me. It's like, you don't even pay my bills. What good are you to me? And like, I think men are having that identity crisis. Like, okay, what if my wife makes more money than me? Or what if, you know, she doesn't need me or doesn't see me as a leader? And I think the truthful case is most women don't, because most men don't step up. They don't step up as a leader in their fitness. They don't step up as a leader in their faith. They don't step up as a leader in their family. They don't step up as a leader in their finances. And then stress comes on the house and the woman's like, what good are you to me? So, it was a hard thing for me to hear from my ex-wife. Nobody wants to hear that. Right. But it was somewhat of a wake-up call to be like, hey, even though I don't feel like that was deserved, I need to be providing. I need to be the best I can be. And that's why I just want to help men do that.
No, I love that. And you're not just doing it through the book. You are also available as a coach, correct?
Yeah. So right now I'm about 80% done writing the book. I've written all the chapters, but I got to go through and like finalize it. And then I got to send it to an editor. They're saying that most likely it'll be spring of next year. So at the same time, I'm going through and putting together different courses. So like the only thing I've ever done as far as training, because when the fitness was being a personal trainer. Right? So I'm obviously not going to be a one-on-one personal trainer. Right. But I'll do online coaching with that. The biggest thing I've learned from being a sales coach and a fitness coach and being around other coaches and mentors is that 90% of it is accountability. Only about 10% of it's information. Right. Most people can get the information online. Most people know what's healthy. Most people know to go to the gym. Most people know they should save money. It's just they don't do it. They need that accountability. And so that accountability is what I'm really focusing on, giving them the direction, helping them be more self-disciplined, whether it's with their finances, whether it's with their fitness or whatever. But then it's the accountability. It's like, hey, how can I hold you accountable to hitting your goals. Because if you don't hit your goals, it makes me look bad as a coach. I used to tell my personal training clients that. I say, you got to lose weight. So if you don't lose weight, I will fire you, because you're not losing weight because of me. You're not losing weight because you're not sticking to it. And that makes me look bad when you tell people you train with me. So like, I think that accountability is a big factor to coaching. But yes, I will be offering coaching through the program.
So now if they wanted more information about that, where can they go look and find, and we'll have the show notes.
They can go to the website, and there's a little thing where they can subscribe so that I can kind of keep up with them as things are going. So that's theselfdisciplinedman.com. But also just starting to follow me on social media. I haven't really blasted it out on social media because I'm still the branch sales manager of the mortgage company. I'm still, I've got people underneath me. I've got a team of people. So that's still where my income is coming from. But it's going to slowly progress more into I want to do more speaking. I want to do coaching. And then the book, I never would have thought I would ever write a book, but I found that I actually like writing. And there's different topics I would like to talk on. So hopefully I'll have a few more books coming out. And like I said, it's not because I feel like I'm the expert, like, hey, come listen to me. It's because here's what I learned. And I think if you apply what I write in here, you're going to have a better life.
Yeah. My coach says sometimes you just need to be one step ahead.
Yeah.
To turn around and put your hand out and say, here, come with me.
It's so true. Yeah. Sometimes if you're too far ahead, it's unrelatable. It's like, okay, yeah, you have a $10 million business. How can I make my first 6 figures? Yeah, it's like, it's unrelatable. But if you have someone who is just a few steps ahead, who's been through some stuff and can help you get there quicker, and also those people charge a lot less than the people who are charging, $7,000 for this, 2-day course or whatever. So yeah, I'm excited.
I think it's important to point out too, that like, just because you start with a coach or you start, mentoring with someone, they, like you said, you can get them to a certain point, but then if they get to that point and then they're ready to continue, like, it's okay to switch. It's okay to go to someone else. Like, I think so many people get stuck in, well, I've been with them for so long. Well, shame on you.
Well,
like,
that's very true. I also, for me, like, I want to coach people and then have them become coaches on the team. Because like, what I want to help people become a good follower. If they're hiring me as a coach, they got to be a good follower. They got to listen to what I'm saying. They got to be a good student, a good follower. And then once they achieve a certain level of success and hit their goal, I want them to turn around and coach, because one of the best ways to learn is to teach. And so, and also some of the best satisfaction in life is helping other people. I mean, that's to me, one of the biggest joys is just knowing that you changed someone's life.
Well, and I feel like I think your entire life journey has been with that, truly with that motive with it every time. I mean, take it from helping people lose weight or just get in better shape, and then just helping people feel better, with a product that you believed in. Yeah. And then, I mean, going into the mortgage industry, like, helping people achieve the dream of owning their own home. Yeah. Like, it just, I feel like everything that you've done has been with a true heart of helping others.
Going back, I said I used to think sales was like a bad thing.
Right.
And like,
what's your take now?
Well, I went to a conference in 2008, my first year in the network marketing thing. And it actually wasn't even the conference for that. It was a marketing conference put on by Joe Polish. Most people don't know who Joe Polish is, but Joe Polish is worth hundreds of millions of dollars. He was a carpet cleaner, which my dad owns a carpet cleaning company, but he ended up teaching and marketing to other carpet cleaners, helping them build $1 million business, which my dad has turned into a multi-million-dollar business. And so my dad went out to the whole family to this conference in Arizona. And I'm like, man, this little halfway bald guy on stage is multi-millionaire, but he's changing people's life. And one of the things he said on stage was, sales is one of the most ethical professions you can be in if what you're selling benefits the person more than the money they spent for it. And that just changed my whole mindset on it. I was like, man, that's so true. If someone, for example, just going to coaching, if someone was to pay me $500 for a coaching thing and I could help them make an extra $50,000, that was more than, well, it's like, so that was awesome. I owe it to them. If I don't go tell them this information, then they can't get to where they want to be. So that changed my whole mindset on sales, was saying, hey, as long as what I'm selling has value and as long as I'm helping them more than the money they're giving for the help, then it's worth it. And so that changed my mindset on sales.
Yeah, I love that. So before I go through, we do rapid fire questions. I don't know if you know this about this, but before I go there, have I missed anything? I know it's such a random general question, but I do this even in the event planning business. The last question I always like to ask is, what have I missed? What's on your heart you wanted to share today that maybe I didn't ask about?
Oh man, I didn't come in thinking about what's on my heart. But I will say though that for a lot of people, a lot of men too, maybe mostly men, don't really go talk about their feelings. They don't see a therapist. They don't go through all that stuff. So a lot of people get hung up on their past. You know, their past defines them. It limits them, self-limiting beliefs. So I typically tell when I'm talking to guys, like, first thing you have to do is forgive yourself from the past. Whatever mistakes you made, if it was in your relationship, if it was with your finances, if it was with your fitness, like, you have to forgive yourself of your past. The second thing you need to do is heal yourself from your past. Some people have past traumas, like stuff happened to them. You know, I've lived a pretty great life up until all of my stuff started happening. Like, I had amazing childhood. There's people that don't have amazing childhood. There's people who have been through some tough situations and they never sought professional help. And there's a book called What Happened to You. And it talks about how most people's views on life and most people where they're at in life is because of traumas that happened before. And they don't even know that that's the reason they're this way. And so I tell people they really have to heal themselves from whatever trauma they have, because if they don't do that, they're going to have a hard time breaking through to that next level. And so you have to forgive yourself. You have to go through that healing process so that you have the right mindset to be self-disciplined, to take the necessary steps to get to where you want to be. And I think that's a big step that most people miss, but specifically men.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny you say that. I did a study. I was in a sport group and we did a couple of different books, but we did a Lisa TerKeurst, Forgiving What You Can't Forget. Yeah. Do you know that?
I have. Yeah.
Okay, so it was one of and it was such, oh my gosh, oh, how far I have grown just in the last few years, where all these ladies that came in, they came in with like a true heart of like, they had things they knew that were heavy and I had a great childhood. Like some of these ladies went through some real traumatic things, and I had like little T traumas, not like big T traumas. And so we all sat there and, like the lead counselor, she was there as a support, not as necessarily the counselor, but, she was like, guys, I am so scared to really get in here. Like, some of these things that I know I need to forgive, like, I don't want to, like, I want to hold it in this. And sweet little Jessica, it got to be my turn. And I was like, well, see, there's nothing really that I need to forgive in my life. So I'm really just more so here, like, to support you. I'm going to do this for you. Right. And when I say, like, oh my gosh, there was a moment in the book where it was talking about like how you can over spiritualize forgiveness, where it was like, oh, well, God told me to forgive, so I forgive you. Like, we're all fine. And I always took I called it the high road, like the high bridge. And so, here was all this dirt and this muck of things that were truly down there that needed forgiveness. But I was like, oh, no, like, God told me I needed to forgive. So here I am, I'm forgiving you. Right. And when we got into that study, it was like, I had to back up. And instead of going over that bridge, they made me like get down in the middle of the mud. And it was like, who did I not forgive when I got with that study? It was like things that I didn't even know needed forgiveness. Mm-hmm. But the biggest person and the biggest surprise for me was myself. Yeah. I didn't realize how much shame and guilt and things that I had held from my previous life, from growing up, from making mistakes that I just never let go of and never processed and never just, allowed them to be who I was. Yeah.
And they keep the self-limiting beliefs on you, like, hey, I can't do that. They did it, good for them, but I couldn't do that. And then you realize that once you heal from your past and you forgive yourself from your past and you surround yourself with people that want to see you succeed, you start seeing success.
I think one of just kind of thinking about coaching and, Valerie Burton is who I've done a lot of my training through with it, and I love her. She's part of the Maxwell leadership, but she made a comment one day, she's like, so many people have like a stigma against like counseling, and they don't want to do counseling, and counselors are clinically trained to go back into your past and help you work through that muck, which is what you have to do before you can move forward. But she goes, sometimes she goes, when people are scared, she'll say, I'm not digging for dirt, I'm digging for gold.
Oh, there you go.
And so, she'll say, counselors, they're clinically trained to go back and bring you to where you are, but a coach is meant to take you from where you are to where you want to be. Right.
No, that's so true. I think the biggest lesson I've learned from going to counseling was that it gives me more grace for other people, because I'm like, okay, they're acting this way, but why are they? What happened to them to act this way? So like my fiance, she always says, one of your best gifts is being able to see both sides of a story. Like, like giving grace where like this person, she's like, how are you not mad that they did that or they said that? I was like, because it couldn't be me. I'm awesome. Not me. but I was like, I gotta give them grace because I don't know what they're going through today. I don't know what triggered whatever was happening in their life. And I was like, I want people to give grace to me whenever I'm going through something. So it's definitely helped me extend that grace and kind of learn more, and also helped me teach me how to ask questions. Why? Like my biggest question is, why do you believe what you believe? Like, why do you think the way you think? Right? Because I like to kind of get down to why people are the way they are.
That one of the things that Lisa Turker says is, if you can't have compassion for the person, have compassion for their pain. And so that to me was a very that was kind of a moment, because I realized in all my uncovering there was at least one person that I truly had to forgive, and I just couldn't because of who she was as a person.
Right.
And it was like, and when she said it, it was like, if you can't have compassion for the person, have compassion for the pain that they must have gone through that put them to this. Wow. This is who they are now. And it was like,
that's good.
Yeah. So it was definitely for me, that was a life-changing study that I did. But I love that is it's funny because it's not like we rehearsed any of this or that you were like, here's what I want to say. I mean, that was amazing. It was great. This has been fabulous. I'm sitting here like,
you made me feel so much better
how has my husband done all these dinners, and you talk about association, and yet you and I have never even sat down with Will. We've never. And I feel like we would associate very well outside of life, outside of this room right here in life.
Yeah, fine. We can be friends.
Just make it a friend today. And that's how easy friendship is. Start a podcast, invite them on. No, I'm just kidding.
But we're very like-minded. We both believe in a lot of the same things, whether it's faith-wise or we believe probably in very similar things when it comes to coaching and bettering yourself. I think that makes it easy, and I think that's why I click with Will, and that's why you're married to Will. So yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. Are you ready? Are you ready to wrap this up with our rapid fire?
Sure. If I get anything wrong, just edit
it. You can't. It's your preferences. Okay. What song inspires you?
Ooh. Celebrate.
Celebrate good times. Come on.
No, it's a song by Post Malone where he's just talking about, getting there and celebrating the fact that you got there, calling his mama, saying hey, I got there, I celebrated. But also the people along the way that didn't celebrate you, and the haters, because everybody has those, and if you don't, it's probably because either you're just the awesomest person ever, or you're not pushing yourself hard enough. And when I say haters, it's just anybody who is jealous of your success, and that's why I typically change the people around, because I want to be around people who are winning, so that when I win, they're like, oh cool, let's go do this together. You're not like, oh man, right, I can't believe you made more money, or you did this or did that, So yeah, I like that because I like celebrating other people's success. I love when other people succeed. It inspires me to see people succeed and motivates me to work harder. So yeah, any of my friends that succeed, I have plenty that are more successful than me, and I love it.
Yeah. As Wes Spife says, haters everywhere we go.
Philosophy. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Word to your mother. Okay. What book inspires you?
I'll go outside the Bible just
because please. I think everyone has said Bible first.
Yeah, and I think I say it in a more genuine way than most people do, only because when I read it, I'm really trying to learn more about God, who he is and his purpose for having this book be in the Bible. I mean, it's a collection of 66 books written by 40 different authors over 2,000 something years. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Have you ever read watched The Chosen? Curious, not our rapid fire.
Yeah, the first season. I haven't gotten to the next one. But so to me, it's just such an amazing book, collection of books. When people say, oh, that's just a made up religion. No, you don't get 66 books over 40 different authors over 2,000 something years and have manuscripts that we can go back to so they say the same thing. It's so ridiculous. There's 65,000 cross references in the book. There's nothing like it. So
you've looked at it a time or two.
Yeah. Oh, I genuinely love it. When I have it on my table and I don't take it off, I have it open, so I have to see it, and I have So to me, when I say the Bible, it's because whether you're reading Proverbs and you're getting wisdom from it, or whether you're reading stories from people who have really messed up, but God still used them anyway, like King David and stuff. So I just think it's an awesome book. But outside of that, I would probably say Darren Hardy's book, The Compound Effect, because it's talking about the little decisions that we make every day and how they add up over time to be who you are today. Because everybody is where they are in life because of decisions they made up until that point. The body we have is the food we've eaten and the workouts we've missed or not missed. The money we have in their bank account is the money we've saved or haven't saved. So everybody is where they currently are at in life, like it or not, because of the decisions we made. So that compound effect is talking about the difference of making bad decisions and good decisions. And over time, you see how drastic those, day to day, they might not seem big, but over time. So I like that book.
For rapid fire, we'll go through these quickly. Okay, what person inspires you?
Ooh, a lot of people.
He's like, oh, this is not quick.
Well, yeah, because there's just so many people. My mom with her patience and prayer, my father because of his work ethic and just the man he is, my fiance just because of how she's just a good person, like genuinely one of the best people I've ever met. Jesus.
Fast answer. Jesus. What place inspires you? Travel a lot. What place has inspired you the most?
Oof. I would just say the beach. I mean, just in general, when you're at the beach and it's just so big, it's so grand. So whether it's the beach or the mountains, whenever you see something that's just so much bigger than you, that it puts it into perspective how small we are.
You're right.
But that there's something bigger that created it. I'd say that's inspiring.
Yeah, that's good. All right. So this is kind of, however you need to interpret this. What hope or thought or quote inspires you?
I don't know if this one inspires me, but it inspired me to write the book.
Okay,
so
we'll take
it. There's a quote, and I'll probably get it partly wrong. You can Google it and make it right. But it says, hard times create strong men. Strong men create good times. Good times create weak men. And I feel like that's where we're at today. We had some really good times coming out. You think about the hard times of the Great Depression, and wars, World War I, World War II, they created the greatest generation of all time. And that great generation from the 40s, 50s, and 60s created good times. I mean, the 60s were the, hey, free love, 70s, it's just good times. Well, those good times, in my opinion, has started to create weak men. And those weak men are creating hard times. I feel like we're in those hard times. We're entering harder times, in my opinion. And I think that it's going to create strong men, but we need strong men to stand up now so that the hard times aren't so hard.
Right.
So that inspired me to write the book. So I guess I'll use that.
No, I love that. And I think I've seen that quote. So I know you're not lying. That's a real one. Oh, that was incredible.
Well, I appreciate
that. Will, every time we've talked about it, has said, you need to have Richard Bischoff. Jessica, you need to have Richard Bischoff. You had to have, and this is, we started this initially in 2021. It wasn't like this past month. He has been saying your name to me now for years, which of course we still haven't had dinner, but this was incredible. No, you are inspiring. I'm excited. I'm excited to read your book. I'm excited to push your book. I'm excited to see how you grow in the coaching realm because I think you're going to be incredible. I mean, you're already a coach, but just to see you grow in that side and explore that side of
I'm excited.
The business.
I'm excited because I want to grow myself. I want to grow as a person. I always feel like we should be trying our best to improve in any way we can. So I appreciate it. It.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for listening. We'll be back again, so thanks so much.